About 3 years ago, if you've asked your providers, your cloud providers, for your own carbon emissions based on the services you are operating in their data centers, you had been able to get an answer. Nowadays, you don't. You don't get a reply anymore. They're hiding data. If you take Microsoft, who fired up a nuclear power plant in the US, who had a nuclear issue, a main issue in the 60s, and was laid down and powered off since then, and nobody did even put a hand into this because it was way too dangerous. Do we have anyone in the world who is able to do a heart surgery and answer political questions and be able to drive an industrial company and melt steel and repair your car? No, we don't, but we expect AI to do so.
We'll jump into corporate ESG again. So how global brands actually build this?
So you've built ESG strategy inside some of the most sophisticated enterprises in the world. So what is the gap between a company announcing in a press release about ESG and what actually exists when you open a hood?
Ooh-ha. Don't get me going. No, the thing is,
the little compliance theater trap.
yeah, absolutely. No, but I mean, the thing is, and starting with the positive view, in all corporates I've just worked in my past, and I'm now working together with in the own company surroundings, there is people with passion and people who are really interested in driving things. So that's without any excuse the starting point. So everybody I just got in touch with really means things serious. The big issue comes with the size and the priorities and the importance of things. And the more you are in the corporate surroundings, the more sustainability is a side effect. In most of the companies I've spoken about and I've learned in my past, well, it was something which wasn't able to be ignored because there is dependencies like reporting aspects, and there is expectations from customers, maybe from banks for loans or from insurers for maybe getting your new building insured. So there is definitely dependencies, so it's not able to be ignored. The level of importance and the level how things got treated then from a strategy perspective and a shiny, 120 PowerPoint pages long sustainability report towards the real action, the gap was partially massive and partially very little, very much depending on mostly a single person's interest. And this is the higher you can get in the company surrounding, the more importance a CEO or a board level of a company has into that topic, the higher the chance to really get active. And maybe already pointing towards the solution thinking, if you're now listening to that podcast and thinking, yeah, well, I know that feeling, and but how can I treat it? Well, try to find the sweet spot of interest in your head office, in your CEO's interest. And this can be always completely different. If I take Allianz, for example, the guys there have been very interested in social engagement, in doing things with local communities. If you take Trivandrum, for example, there is a huge area where there is the neighborhood being supported and maybe education is being supported, or schools or female empowerment. So that was always a very high rated topic, and the interest and therefore the willingness to invest time and money into that aspect was way higher than, for example, compared to nature protection, because there was always like, well, but we're an insurance company and we insure people, so people is maybe the one thing which is closer to us, and then the side effect is maybe some climate protection as well. The thing is, and that is the term I'm always using, if I'm in front of my CEO's office, or now in front of my customer's CEO's office, the importance of what I have in my hand, what he or she is able to see, is choosing whether the door is being open and I'm able to go through, or the door is being closed in front of me. And what I do have in my backpack, and what comes in addition to the things which I have in my hand, is maybe something which isn't even seen. But if I get the awareness and if I get the acceptance for that topic which is being seen, because the emotional connection is there from the one with the budget and from the one who has the decision, then I'm able to bring a lot of things with me which she or he doesn't even have to know about or doesn't even have to see, because it's always there, and it always is a full picture trade-off. We're talking about ESG, environmental, social, and governance. That's all three dimensions. And if the focus is on social, and if that is raising the acceptance, don't fight the fight to try to convince someone who is not interested in planting trees and ignoring that he's maybe interested in helping people. Focus on that part which is interest for.
Rainer, you worked with companies globally. So when you look at India specifically, SEBI's BRSR framework, the carbon credit trading scheme, long living 2025 and the green bond issuance doubling to 15.8 billion in India, is India ahead where it looks from the outside, or is it still mostly on paper?
I think you have to as we've already spoken about, compare the old world like we are here in Europe, which is in that situation to try to avoid anything which is transformational and changing towards a surrounding like you have in India, where there is already the average age of people who are living in India is, I think, 10 years lower than in Europe. So we have much more older people here, which are more protective to what they've achieved. And in India, it's the other way around. There is a lot of people who are interested in what they are able to achieve. And that is creating, I think, from my point of view, an interest in transformative and an interest in changing habits and changing things towards the good. So that's the one aspect. So therefore, there is definitely a good chance. And the other one is, we have to have, from my point of view, a good understanding that in the way of environmental protection aspects and reporting aspects, there is always an economical advantage as well. And that economical advantage is something which can be very much of help. And I'm 100% sure, in particular India, which is already very digital and very much with a lot of talents in the IT sector, in the engineering sector, because you did work for ages together now with European and German companies and headquartered companies from Europe in mostly the IT and the digital world. So that brings me to the acceptance of, again, that change towards AI and that protectionism, so to say, against something which is moving my job away towards AI. I'm losing my job through AI, which I think doesn't exist in India that much, because I know that the people I know from my past from India, they are all very open-minded towards technology, and they're all trying to see the advantages out of AI and what can it do with me and for me and how can I adapt with things. And that's the complete opposite, like what we are having here mostly in the European surrounding, where there is a lot of people afraid at the moment that they will lose their job because AI will take it over and automate things. And now building the bridge towards sustainability aspects and to reporting, I think where we treat things in the European world like, oh gosh, another reporting I have to fulfill, another 120 PowerPoint pages long document I have to provide, oh my God. In your surrounding, I'm assuming that there is more the advantages which are being seen, and there is more that, okay, this creates transparency. It comes up with an understanding, where can I maybe reduce cost? Where am I able to enhance my production process? Where am I able to automate things? And what can be the advantage if I'm putting a lot of data as a fundament underneath my reporting? And then it comes to what we said a bit earlier. The report itself is just the waste product, a side product of the whole process, but the underlying aspect is helping you as a company. If you treat it like that, and if I've just heard a term recently, I have to quote, in Germany, the glass is always half empty. So whenever we look at things, it's always half empty. And now it's not about trying to turn it the other way around to say, well, but it's not half empty, it's half full. No, and that's the quote I've had. If you just change the size of the glass, you can have the same type of liquid and fill the glass completely, because maybe it's just the glass who is too big because it's half empty. If you take a smaller one, it fills it up. And that is exactly what I think in the way like I am looking towards India. This is, as I've said, an upcoming market with massive speed. There is a lot of young people who are super interested, super open-minded and transformative. And that transformation brings up a lot of advantages if you follow it open-minded and if you don't try to protect what you've had in the past. And that is, I think, the main difference. And this is why I'm still very much convinced all the engagement which has been driven. And I have to tell that for you in India, this is quite, I think, normal, and you don't even think about it. For me, from the European perspective, it had been completely new, as I've learned through Allianz, that in India, being a company, you have to spend a certain percentage of your revenue per year into social engagement. And I've always questioned, why don't we have that here in Germany? Why don't we have that in Europe? I mean, this is by far the best thing you can do. You enforce a company to be socially engaged and to spend at least a part of the money they are making with people for people. And that is exactly the mentality which I learned from India in particular, that the centricity on human beings is much more driven in India. I mean, this is stereotyping. It might not be valid for everybody and for everyone in every region, but at least from what I've seen, there is much more interest into people. And that is maybe then a good chance for the sustainability sector as well.
Let's talk about what global brands actually need from India. If I were a procurement head of a major European brand right now, and I'm looking at India as a supplier, what does my ESG due diligence checklist actually look like? And how close or how far is the typical Indian mid-sized manufacturer from meeting that checklist?
Well, that's a very good question. I mean, what it always needs, and that is independent whether it's India or elsewhere in the world, is transparency and honesty. And that transparency and honesty that comes for environmental aspects like energy consumption, water consumption, but as well toxical aspects, chemicals used, air pollution, which is required for maybe production processes. It goes very much into human aspects or the social component, so labor rights, human right treatment, and all that aspects. But on the other side, it requires, from my point of view, and maybe that's the biggest requirement which exists there, an understanding for each other. And it requires a perspective to be willing to understand that there might be differences in culture. Let me give you one example from my past. Through the aspect of the German Supply Chain Act, which is looking into human right treatments in the whole supply chain, we ran into a supplier at that time which was producing computer equipment in India with 12-year-old kids from our perspective. So if you now understand, well, the local right in India is different than what the German right might be. In our surrounding, you're allowed to work starting with the age of 14. But in India, you might be allowed to start working with the age of 12. So this is just a local difference. And what I always see, and this is even more, you've asked the question, what is the dependency from a European perspective towards India? I would turn it the other way around. I would like to expect that the European companies start to understand and be willing to accept that maybe in India, things might be a little different than what we have in Germany. And it's not on us to convince anyone. It's not on us to be the better ones and to convince that, well, you have to change your local right and change the age from 12 to 14. No, you don't. If that is your local law and that is something which is required for whatever reasons, then we need to accept things. Same as for China. I mean, we're always treating Chinese with they are fighting against Uyghurs and there is what type of different treatments of human rights. Yes, true. But that is something which we are not the ones to convince anyone, and we're not the ones to judge anyone, because we have a lot of human rights violations in Europe and in Germany as well, and we've had that in the past as well. So who are we to judge? And that is maybe what I would expect. And that is, on the other side, coming back to your question, if you have the openness and if you have the understanding for each other cultures, and this is why, and now again, the bridge to digital, we're in an age where conversations like this, we are recording a podcast, you're sitting close to Trivandrum or in Trivandrum, I'm sitting in Munich in Germany, and we are recording a podcast together. So that digital capabilities of what we have nowadays, the world is connected everywhere. We can in seconds flip around the world. We could now bring somebody from New Zealand into that podcast as well. We could bring someone from the US into that podcast as well in seconds. So we have the ability to communicate open with people. And maybe that is the best way to treat things in one sentence. People are good. People aren't bad. People aren't evil. People aren't trying to fight only for themselves. The majority of human beings are good. So if you try to adopt that mentality, and if you try to treat things like that, and if you treat your suppliers like this, and not just like the supplier in an anonymous way and just a number on a piece of paper, if you treat that there is people behind which are just trying to fulfill a job in the best possible way to feed their own family and bring it down to the very minimums and the basics, which is have a secured surrounding, drink clean water, eat good food and breathe fresh air and raise your children in a good surrounding. If you treat it like this, and if this the fundament and the underlying ideas, then you should be able to work with people from all over the world and take advantage from each other. It should not be single lane. It should not be just one company taking advantage from the other. It should be an advantage for both. And if you treat it like that, the world would be better.
Yeah, we have one section which was demanded by our viewers and our friends and corporate, many people. ESG as a career, the next big opportunity. So there are courses happening, and even companies nowadays, there are chief sustainability officers, ESG data analysts, supply chain auditors, and carbon accountants. I've seen many nomenclatures in the field as well. So how does the ESG as a career work on a global scale, like even for India? And another question which I have on the same thing is, like, you left a big corporate career to start Heartprint, right? And the thesis is essentially that ESG consulting is the business model for the decades ahead. And what does markets look like from the inside? Who is actually paying for this work, and the demand, or what is the actual demand in this? And is it still mostly driven by fear or anything for regulations? How does it actually work?
I'm
sorry that the question is a little long.
but it does go very well together, so that's a very good one. And yeah, indeed, the market changed. So in the last 1.5 to 2 years, I just even published an article recently which was named with the title "Sustainability is Dead." And I'm convinced that the terminology, the narrative sustainability and as well ESG is mostly dead. And that is because of guys like Trump, which we've spoken about earlier already. And the topic itself still is as important as it can be. And the more the climate crisis rises and the more people are understanding, well, there is maybe a need to change, the more that topic requires experts who do understand all that acronyms, who do understand the dependencies between things. And it requires even more the willingness to spend your own workforce in doing things and driving things. Regulatory itself, it used to be the main driver, not anymore. So at least in most of the European surroundings and US surroundings, I mean, US deregulated completely more or less, so literally nothing left. So with that, I think it's not the main driver. On the other side, and if there is now sustainability companies listening to that podcast who did make their money maybe with a reporting software, they might probably not good in hearing that. But from my point of view, the market was blown. And that was like a big bubble where there was way too many companies not driving things because of the purpose for sustainability or the better in the world, but just because of making money as much as they could. And if you take in particular the reporting topic, there was companies doing nice fancy reporting software tools on the market like mushrooms in the woods. And that was too much. And what came on top is, and again, maybe some sustainability people like not to hear that in truth, but we've always had that tendency in the sustainability bubble to raise our fingers, to just always convince others, you should not do that. Don't eat that much meat. Don't fly that much. Don't do this. Don't do that. But this is not how to convince people. The majority of people are not being convinced by don't do this, don't do that. Try that with your own kids at home and you'll figure it out quite easily. It won't work. I have 3, so therefore I know what I'm talking. Then it always works. And that is something which I think now changes. And what I love is, and again, a bit of a personal story, as I've started my combination of IT and sustainability, as mentioned already earlier, I was mostly being laughed about and not treated serious. So this is now the part which did demotivate me for even quite some time at that ages, 2020, 2021. Whenever I showed up in sustainability events or in company rounds where there was chief sustainability officers, I was always treated like on a side note, that's that IT guy who thinks he knows about sustainability. Now it flips the other way around, because now all sustainability people immediately understood, well, maybe that guy was right, and digital and AI could be an answer for a lot of things. Now I have to understand what that digital part is all about, but I have to ask that guy. So I can only motivate if you are out there. Sustainability was your purpose and ESG was the topic which you drove, and now you're afraid of maybe losing importance. Start getting familiar with IT and digital and AI. And once you are, and you don't treat it from a sustainability standpoint any longer, but that transformational aspect of what we have been talking about and what the purpose of my own company is, you'll be immediately in a situation where things are different. And if twin transformation doesn't motivate you as much, be aware that what we are doing and what we need to do is all about future readiness, about future viability, and the future will be AI. AI is here to come and AI is here to stay. It will just massively transform all of our lives more than anything else before. So digital and AI is nothing you could ignore, nothing you could just point your fingers towards and say, well, it's all evil, it requires way too much energy and water. No, you have to treat it the right way. And you need to be the one who is driving then things here as well.
So we have come to the last question of our podcast, of this episode. And this one is a really favorite question of mine. Reina, we have been connected on LinkedIn for quite a long time. I think it's more than 4 years. Heartprint is a practice partner on a research project called NAVIT for sustainable IT education. So you're not just basically consulting companies, you are helping design the curriculum for how IT professionals of the future are trained. What's missing from the current education system that NAVIT is trying to fix?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, summarizing that in a very quick way, education is the key. And the key element for the change in the world is always just sharing knowledge and sharing it in a way like it's been understood. And from my point of view, sustainability and IT and that combination of both should not be a specialist topic like it is maybe at the moment. It should be something which is quite fundamentally involved into all educational aspects at universities, at schools, in training surroundings. And that is exactly what NAVIT is all about. So the project itself has the purpose in the next 1.5 to 2 years, and then with a final stage then, so an overall time for 3 years, to produce so-called OERs, so Open Education Resources. And already announcing that to everybody who's listening now, if you are interested in learning more about that, we have first of all our websites, but secondly, please get in touch with me. Always very much happy to share things, because sharing knowledge is one of the aspects of sustainability as well. If you look at the Sustainable Development Goals, SDG 17, that's exactly what it is all about, collaboration for the good. And so from my point of view, if we are ensuring that all that knowledge of twin transformation, all that knowledge about what we've spoken about, AI and what the price of AI is, and digital and responsibility of products and human treatments and digital inclusion, all that aspects, if that is something which is fed into the universal aspects, and everybody who is studying independently, if it is an IT or informatics study or if it is something else, if that is fundamentally fed into that, we have a chance to really get into a bright future, because people then are aware of things and treat it in a standard way. I would like to give another example which just maybe explains what the main idea behind that is. Cybersecurity, as I've started my IT career in the late 90s, was something which was a side effect, which was like, well, there is some guys who are treating that and making our companies safe. Nowadays, we are all trained, and no, we don't clicking on a link which we don't know the sender. We know that we don't open an attachment if it just says, well, your DHL packet tracking needs to be fulfilled, or enter your credit data here to do
It's default now.
Yeah, it's default, exactly. And that's exactly where we need to get sustainability and twin transformation as well. It needs to be the default.
Reina, this has been one of the most technically rich and genuinely practical conversations that we have had on this show. Heartprint, for everyone listening, is at heartprint.eu, and Reina's work spans over ESG strategy, digital resilience, and the idea that sustainability and technology are not two different paths, but together combined to a single future. They are not the same. Reina, thank you.
Thank you for the pleasure in talking with you. I mean, this is, again, we're talking now since, what, an hour and 10 or something? Time is flying by like crazy. This is amazing. We've spoken up front how long it should be. But yeah, and just let me share one sentence in the past. Like you said it already, I'm very much interested. One of the very little things I'm really missing with driving my own company instead of being part of a corporate, being in a corporate always ensured that I'm internationally connected with people nearly each day. Now, with my own little company, I'm working mostly very local in the German-spoken surrounding, and I'm really missing, in particular, the connect to India. So if you're a company out there in India, if you're now listening, if you have the thought, well, maybe that strategy aspect could be something for me as well, please be very much open in getting in touch with me. And I'm not in that high-cost country, Germany, anymore. I'm very much focused on the small, medium-sized businesses. Don't be afraid in getting in touch. I would love to work with you if you're in India.
And for our listeners today, everything that we've talked about, every report, every framework, every regulation, every compliance, everything will be linked in the description below. You're watching No One Talks About This on SAFCurl Plus. Thank you for watching.
Subscribe for more videos like this. Click right here to keep watching.